So then we are back with more understanding from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find in the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Israelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end as per Yeshayahu the prophet. Then we find the time of the restoration and reduction, also from Yeshayahu, the first recorded of the spring feast. And then understanding the trade market of the time of the end. Then we have a few references of Daniel the 11th chapter, and then also the Messiah himself during the time of the revelation or Galah, during the first holy city of Yohanan, when then we did understand then the freighters of the earth then in charge, and then the Messiah explaining later via Ezekiel then the stick being restored to the sons of Ishmael. So then, since the last visit in China, we've then perceived and noticed very interesting developments, such as US then obviously printing out more money. Then also Australia went to China, and also New Zealand and many other countries. And have you observed after they came back home with some very strange ideas? We find then the Japanese people also printing out more money. Then we find the US government lining up more Marines in Australia. Then was then roughly a couple hundred, then 1100, then they are thinking of 2000. Then we find not only this, but today came out of some information from the Australian paper regarding then the US ship joining then the hot zone. We have to be very cautious of trying to upset the Asian market. You know, Mr. Chi, he is the true boss. As far as the world's economy, he's in charge. So let's be very cautious and understand any kind of a forcing, any kind of countries gathering, and then decision of then upset the Asian market, it's not going to work. So then we find then, obviously, the unification of US and Japan. Then you find also Australia joining up in a hot zone. Some time ago there was then via the Radio Korea International, they were complaining because US was then provoking the North Koreans because of the military exercises. They were not only over there at least to get the exercises done, they were having intention of provoking them further. And now we find then, unfortunately, Australia used to be very wise, then came back home, then the PM decided they should have education, should have then the upgrading of the military, at least the Navy, and then projecting the future with funding not even in existence. Then, you know what this means? Joining up the money printing festival with the US and Japan. You know, the government can't anymore hide those junky, dirty ideas of them. They can't do it anymore. People are very aware of what's going on. And this junky exercise over there is not going to work. Because we are during the time of the dragon, and then obviously the Chinese, they are going to show their muscles. At some point we understand then the Chinese must start making a movement. You know, and the checkmate of the whole situation is the Chinese making a deal with the Soviet Union, the Northern Kingdom, and then having the Soviet Union becoming their managers. Then it's over with. Then the US must retrieve. Then Australia, unfortunately, their plan is not going to work because they are conservatives and then they are not watching their budget. But then the great hope is then in September, Mr. Tony Abbott taking over the helm over there in Australia. That's the only hope. Because the joining up with the nations in money printing festival, it's not going to work. And those people, they are aware of it. So let's make sure that we understand that this junkie exercise is not going to work. Because the 11th chapter of Daniel states very plainly, there is a relationship with the north and a relationship with the south. So then let's make sure we understand Mr. Chi over there. What it takes only is for him to hire the services of the Soviet Union. Any deals from the world desiring then for the Chinese to produce, because other nations, they can beat the prices of China, and some of them are already dependent upon their products. What it takes is a simple deviation of the plans from China to the Soviet Union, and then the party is over. So then, rather than provoking them further and then destroying ourselves, why don't we then give them some space and do what we should be doing? Retrieving and then rebuilding. Then we find U.S. enticing the Asian market, then U.S. enticing the North Koreans, and then U.S. then enticing the hot zone, and then U.S. already have obviously dragged Japan, already have dragged the Australians, and thank God New Zealand got not mixed up with it. Thank God there is a islander chief over there very acquainted with the situation, and they are not going to let New Zealand get themselves scandalized. This plan is not going to work, and people are already aware of it. There are multiple complaints from many international radio stations, and then those people are very honest, because they understand if you do it via internet, then sometimes it gets posted wrongly. But when you listen to the shortwave radio stations, boy, listen at night. A lot of complaints. And then we're going to spin ourselves even further. We are not doing what the Messiah said, then taxing properly via then the freighters. The government is not visiting with the freighters of our country, and then asking them to use their system of tracking for taxation purposes, and we are cashing our future, disregarding IMF reports. So not only we are adrift, we got no direction. Japan got in the midst of it. They are already doing printing money festival. Australia is already on the way. Then they send ships over there in the hot zone. What are they thinking? These people are ridiculous. Obviously, then the trading post of the South Pacific is going to be New Zealand. Australia got their name already dirted up. A monstrosity of education plan, extremely expensive, and they think via education they can make up for the money not even available for the project, already starting out with a 7.5 B's of debt. They have a huge hole in their economy. So what it takes thus far is the boss over there, Mr. Chi, making a deal with the Soviet Union, Mr. Putin. When they become then the managers, then we have to reroute our plans to the Soviet Union. As long as the plan is hot and then the plan is backed up and financed, it goes through fine. But then means no more BS. So let's think very cautiously what our government is trying to do over there in Asia and the Pacific area. Because if you poke the lion so far, it's going to bite. Never poke the lion with a short stick. So we can either destroy our economy, or we can retrieve and rebuild it. Boss over there is already protected. What it takes, only partnership with Northern Kingdom. The whole plan of projects and products and production of new partners around the world goes through the Soviet Union. Precisely what's coming in the future. The faster they do it, the more protected they are. And Mr. Putin is not stupid. He used to be a KGB agent. So let's make sure we understand the play is very high and very dangerous.